If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the Filthy Capitalist option. As Sori says, $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. $125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at villageXchange@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
They do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go on the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch, indeed. A child shall lead them.
To buy our merch. It's
Holy
Amy Lee
smokes.
Forever's
Yes,
birthday,
dear
and we
listener,
are
yes, dear listener.
celebrating it with a live stream here. So she has some trivia questions going on. The first question was a song I absolutely loved as a kid from an all-female band in the late 80s. It was 1 point for the band and 2 points for the song. We had Saber Wolves came through and got the first point for the band. And Dwayne came through and got the point for the name of the song.
Unbelievable.
Okay, so points are being added up by Amy herself. So we are off to song number 1, which is Within Temptation, our Solemn Hour.
Okay, here we go.
I speak to you for the first time as Prime Minister in a solemn hour for the life of our country, of our empire. No officer or man, no brigade or division which grapples at close quarters with the enemy can fail to make a worthy contribution to the general result. A tremendous battle is raging in France and Flanders. The enemy, by a remarkable combination of air bombing and heavily armored tanks, have broken through the French defenses, and strong columns of their armored vehicles are ravaging the open country. There is good evidence to show that practically the whole of the special and mechanized forces of the enemy have been already joined in section in a solemn hour for the life of our country.
Whoa, who was that? Within Temptation? Have we done songs from them before?
I thought we had, but it seemed unfamiliar only because I think it was a live video, so I don't think we've ever seen them like perform. I think we've done Within Temptation, but
I see.
Anyway, wow. It's so funny because right before, who was it, Franco, that said, "Look at the dress" or something like that. I was literally looking at that and I was like, crazy.
Dress,
you got some raven feathers looking out. Yeah. I'm just gonna pull up the lyrics here.
What's the name of the song again?
Our Solemn Hour.
Okay, so I heard I heard Churchill. I know we downloaded those lyrics, but they ended up being TXT files. So they're not translating well on this, but it's okay because we got this one. Okay, so at the beginning of the song, there was Churchill. They had I'm pretty sure that was Churchill's famous. We'll fight him in the beaches. We'll fight him on the ground. He delivered this like pretty amazing speech to the people because they were facing the Germans, and the Germans looked at the time insurmountable.
Yep.
And so the Germans had started going after them, and so there was a lot of fear. And so Amy's saying, "Yes, Vin, correct.
It was
excellent.
him.
It was Mr. Churchill at the beginning." Yeah, so it was a pretty fearful time, and so that's been it's one of the greatest, I think, orations of all time. I would say, unfortunately, I was just listening to this thing about I think it was Alexander the Great. I forgot whose speech it was, but it was like ranking the greatest speeches of all time.
Oh,
and unfortunately, a lot of that is in the context of war, which because the circumstances are so extreme, you end up producing some of the best moments in human history. Unfortunately, but I mean it's true, and. I forgot what it was like. There was like the top 5, Dr. King's "I Have a Dream" speech, which is almost like freestyled, almost that speech. But yeah, the Churchill speech was
up in there.
Yeah, it was definitely up there. It's what the people. It's the kind of leadership in crisis that we all wish we had right now, because everybody knows like. Yeah, there's some crazy shit happening in the world. Regardless of how you feel about the Ukrainians or whatnot, like, Russia's a nuclear power. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, there's just a lot of... And obviously, after seeing Oppenheimer a couple days ago, one of the things I loved about the movie was, like, because it's a 3-hour movie, you kind of felt entrenched in that time period.
Oh, 100%.
I mean,
yeah.
It was definitely a focus on Oppenheimer, the man, but it definitely put you back in that time period and things like that. What that must have meant to those people to turn on that radio and hear that kind of leadership. It's inspiring, and it's like you can't take it for granted now because we don't have anybody that could even has the credibility to engage that issue at that level. You see what I'm saying? Like, you have to have a certain amount of credibility, and like all of our institutions now have been so degraded that I don't even know if there was a guy that had that kind of, talent rhetorically. I don't even know if he would be able to get us all going in one direction at this point, just because of the way we are with our government at this point. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. There's so much lack of trust in
100%. It almost seems like it'd have to be somebody from outside of the government, but who would have that type of credibility?
Right. Joe Rogan, I guess. I don't know. I mean, honestly, like it would have to be Joe Rogan.
Ivermectin,
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. It says, "Sanctus Espiritus redeem us from our solemn hour."
Yeah.
So that's. I'm pretty sure that's a form of prayers for the last rites. Sanctus Spiritus, which obviously means Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Right. So when the priest does his last rites or whatever, it's one of those things. Redeem us from our solemn hour. Sanctus Spiritus, insanity is all around us. Sanctus Spiritus, So there it is. Like you're calling for God to kind of fix the situation.
Yeah.
Because it's saying insanity is all around us, and then you kind of have to like when all the human beings are being crazy, you kind of look to God like there's the whole like no atheist in foxhole thing, but there's also like not being in the foxhole, but realizing that if left to ourselves, we're going to make the entire planet a foxhole. Mm-hmm. You know, like there was that scene, and this is not a spoiler, but there was that. People were like, shout out to the Zillennials. I rarely make fun of Zillennials, but like somebody showed me a screenshot, like the kids were Googling, like if Oppenheimer is a true story, and if he was successful with the bomb and stuff like that. It's like,
are you serious?
Shout out to my Zillennials, but I don't even blame them. I blame the education system. If there's any, if there's ever an argument for homeschooling,
that's it right there. Wow.
In my darkest hours, I could not foresee that the tide could turn so fast to this degree. Can't believe my eyes. How can you be so blind? Is the heart of stone? No, is the heart of stone? No empathy inside. Time keeps on slipping away, and we haven't learned. So in the end, now, what have we gained? Yeah. Well, one of the things that got me about that movie was they would have these like little artistic blasts of like you would see neurons and other things like coming together in this.
I think that stuff is called bokeh or something like that, where it like the lights look different. Anyway,
it was really beautiful. It was just like you really see the beauty of science and the childlike sort of discovery of, oh my God, there's a quantum world and it's like an entire universe, like, and we're too big to see it. Like that's the problem. So it's like on the one hand you see how beautiful science is in the movie, but then on the other hand it's like it's being used, it's being marshaled in this very destructive, almost self-destructive way. And throughout the movie it's like, we talked about this kind of yesterday, and I think it was our walk, but it was kind of like this like Walter White type energy where he's doing something and he knows it's bad, but he's so good at it. And like the other thing about Walter was like he's the only one that knew that formula, and like so Oppenheimer, like when you look at his combination of skills and personality and access, he's the only one that could have done what he did.
Right.
And so, like, when you're a person, like, with that kind of, it almost feels like a waste to not, so that's kind of like the struggle. So bad. That's kind of the struggle that he's going through in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, it is like, and then, it talks about madness, because, like, there is one point where Oppenheimer and Einstein are having this conversation because Oppenheimer is concerned that one of his mathematicians had done a equation such that if they set off the bomb, it was possible that the chain reactions that it was initiating would never stop and cycle the globe and just end us all. And
the atmosphere would, I guess, catch on fire.
So, that's what happens in a nuclear reaction.
But that it would not stop.
But it wouldn't stop. That was the problem. And so, like, there's this one... And it's like when the scientists are getting together and talking about it, it's like a mathematical equation. What do we do about this? But then he talks to a military guy who's like, what? He's like, what? He's like, yeah, it's almost a 99% chance it's not going to happen. So he's like, wait a second, there's a chance it could happen? And so like when when they're talking about like madness and insanity, like that's what it's talking about. It's like, is it so important to beat these people that you're willing to like risk the entire planet?
Yeah.
So that you could nuke these people? And at the time, like the Germans were obviously, I mean, there were points in World War II, if what I'm watching on the History Channel and what I've read, there were points in the war where the Germans looked almost undefeatable. Because they had the best strategists, except for the whole Russia debacle. That was a bad move. But they had the best war strategists, and their technology was just head and shoulders above everybody. And they were willing to do things that nobody else was willing to do. You see what I'm saying? And so there was a time when they looked almost unstoppable, unbeatable, and it almost looked inevitable that they were gonna win. And so I understand that kind of fear could drive you to creating something like that, especially if you think the Nazis are, which they were, and the Nazis were like 12 to 18 months ahead of basically the rest of the world.
Yeah, but if it ends up it's just going to destroy the entire planet, then what does it matter, or who does it matter that gets their hands on it first? You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
we're all dead anyway.
Right.
So that
Right,
whole justification that we
Right.
need to have it before them so we can threaten them with it, it's like, well, or it just makes a more dangerous world for all of us.
Yeah. Oppenheimer really started the goofiest convos I've heard about how the nuclear blast. Also, Vin, I'm going to have to correct your... I'm going to have to correct your best strategies and equipment, any current investigation of the war. So, Riv is going to get us a part 2 to that. So, yeah. So that was the justification. I agree with you. Logically speaking, the justification doesn't work. Mm-hmm. And then you can kind of see, like, throughout the movie, it's like, well, the Germans had surrendered. And the Japanese look like they're about to surrender. Exactly. So what's the point of dropping the bomb?
Exactly.
You know, and I don't really feel like that question was answered. And the other thing is I don't think Americans... I don't know if they didn't dig into that question more because it would offend the American audience. Because, like I said, like, we were listening to a documentary about Oppenheimer, but it was from a British guy. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting because he's not on our team. Mm-hmm. Because I, as an American, don't know how the rest of the world looks at what we did in Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Like the average German knows how everybody in the world looks at their performance during World War II.
Right.
But I'm not sure that Americans have a cognizance of how the rest of the world, especially European people,
that'd be so interesting.
view what we did in World War II, particularly as it relates to the bomb, as justified. So I don't really know, and that's actually a question I wanted to ask you, Amy. It was like, what is the... We've got some Europeans in the chat. What's the... And I don't know if there's a consensus idea, but is it looked upon as... Because the way Americans looked at it was like, this is an advancement in American technology and we stopped the war. And so there's a... It's basically a good... It's like a necessary evil type thing where when Americans are taught about World War II and Hiroshima and Nagasaki, like it's... Hey, we had no other choice.
Yeah, we had no choice.
We had no choice, blah, blah, blah. And on top of that, it ended the war and ended the World War, made it so that that more lives were saved than were lost. And you'll notice there hasn't been another World War III, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, we've heard all that.
So it's sort of like this Machiavellian sort of utilitarian, well, hey, it
Yeah, I never had anybody say, this is how many people were killed in it, this is how many innocents. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never heard it that way. It was always... presented like, this is what we had to do. We stopped the war, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Good thing we got that technology when we did, basically.
Yeah. So
But then I was surprised in the movie to see that everybody was kind of backing away. Everything was like falling off, so we didn't necessarily have to do that.
Yeah, the Germans had surrendered, and the Japanese were close to surrendering. Of course, the Japanese had the sort of harikari sort of like, you know, they had suicide bombers. I mean, that's how they went after, you know, got us into the war with the whole, you know, Hawaii incident, right? So a day which will live in infamy. So like,
I don't think I know what that is.
Pearl Harbor.
Oh.
And so like, I don't know. You know, I don't really know what the
So our other friends that are not from America, how do you guys view that? What's your take on that? And we're still waiting for Amy's answer also.
Riv says, as long as more lives than saved lost with the nukes. Hold on, go ahead. We could have simply blockaded Japan for a while to get them to give up. They were already beaten. Yeah, I was watching a History Channel recollection of the bomb, and there was a Japanese historian, and it was literally, I'm just telling you, it was literally the first time, and I'm like, maybe this was bad. Because the Japanese dude, he was a historian. You could tell he was really angry. That's why I said, like, imagine being a Japanese American watching this movie, like, as far as things going over people's heads.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, but, like, he was really pissed off. And his idea was basically, we were going to surrender. The problem is that the Japanese propaganda was that they'll never surrender. And, I mean, they were doing the kamikaze trips into the...
Yeah.
So, like, I guess I kind of understand it. Whereas, like, if you're talking strategically, there is no way the Japanese could have won. But emotionally and rhetorically, if you believed that they were going to fight to the last man, then that... You know, the debate goes over and over again. Because the Japanese could say, hey, we were going to surrender. You guys are horrible. It's like, well, how do we know that?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But I would have liked our country to have attempted the blockade or whatever.
Yeah.
But it just seemed to me that but we were so caught up in beating the Germans, and we were so caught up in the competition aspect and the fact that if we had the bomb and we used it and it demonstrated our technological superiority, that would have reverberations in the future.
I think...
And it just so happened that we ended up being the lone superpower after World War II. So America's motivations for that, to me, seem to be multifaceted. It just seemed to me that the Japanese gave them a convenient excuse to flex muscle that they obviously wanted to flex, which I think is
the thing. Like,
is insanity.
I think no matter if it's a child or if it's an adult, if you load up a Nerf gun and you pass it to them, people want to shoot it off and see how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And I think that once we got the capability for that, it was like, is this possible? Like, what, you know? And I think that people were excited to push that button. I don't know necessarily if people were like deeply thinking it out, or if there was a lot of like, what's this, like the excitement of it, like that. You push a button like that, that should be like, this is last resort. This should be like a very grave decision, and I'm not sure if it was like that, given what the situation was that surrounded it, where everybody was you know, surrendering and stuff like that. It doesn't seem like we needed to pop that off, and we didn't know if that was literally going to end all of our lives. Like, were we at the point where we were like, setting this off is better than all of us? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that people wanted to see what was going to happen. I think the curiosity and the excitement of it,
theoretically,
and being the first people to set it off and say that came from us. Like, I just think that was...
Yeah, I mean, $2 billion. Is that us?
I'm assuming so.
$2 billion. They spent $2 billion in the 40s. I mean, I don't even know what the rate would be now. You see what I'm saying? I mean that's a lot of freaking money.
$2 billion
back then. I mean, $2 billion is a lot of money now. Don't get it twisted. But but anyway, like, I appreciate the song because, you know, it definitely. You know, I don't think the world would survive another world war. I don't know if we could legitimately ever get into another world war in the next 20 years. But yeah, but we don't need a world war for there to be massive destruction. That's the problem. When you have countries that are nuclear, like Russia and America, etc., and, you know, we have demonstrated that we will use it against civilians. You know, and that's the thing. It's like, oh, the Iranians shouldn't have the bomb. You don't want a nuclear Iran. It's like, well, the Iranians have never committed an act of destruction to the degree that we could even pretend to. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that's the thing about us as an American. You're kind of not aware of a lot of this stuff as far as like how the world, because you're taught a certain narrative and a certain position. The song was great. Obviously, I love live performances. Obviously, I love. What do you call it? The
theatrical nature of it.
And
sure.
then the orchestra.
For sure. And he had that solo in there too. That was good.
Yeah, we've listened to some Within Temptation songs. I didn't know that there was a female singer in there that was leading up that band. So yeah, it's about $43 billion now. Dr. Reginald McNugget tells us. I mean, $43 billion. That's insane. Go ahead. What were you saying?
So apparently, there's this show called Reservation Dogs. It's about like Native Americans and stuff.
Yeah.
And apparently, Dwayne got a part in it.
What?
that's what
Beals
Pony's
Dwayne?
saying. Yeah, that's what Pony's saying.
Recently?
Yeah, he's hold on, let me see what she said. She said he got a background part as a doctor on the Native American TV show called Reservation Dogs.
Oh my God! Shout out to Dwayne.
Yeah.
High score for him. All right.
Anyway, we'll be wait.
Well, I'm gonna score this.
Yeah, and then we gotta score it, and then we have the other question.
She was the only singer in the band. How did I not know that there was a girl singer in that band?
Well, again, we I don't think we ever saw a live video. Not
9.4 for me.
That was a 9.2 for me. And let's see the next
All right,
question.
now pay close attention, because you're gonna want to win this trivia. Trust me. Okay.
So we're gonna set off the question, and then we're gonna go to the commercial, and Amy is gonna add up the points.
Okay. So and
the answer will come when the commercial's done.
Gotcha. So wait
Okay.
a second. When are we supposed to do the countdown?
It's gonna go during the commercial. Remember, she said she's gonna set the timer.
Okay.
Okay. So the next question is, remember, this is Amy Lee Forever talking. Who was my absolute favorite band as a teenager? It's either A, Nirvana, B, Prodigy, or 3, Alice in Chains. Let you be the judges.
Okay, think about that on the commercial. So it's
No, put your answers in the comment section, because she's...
Amy's favorite band, Nirvana, Prodigy, or Alice in Chains. We're going to commercial. We're Vin and Sori. We'll be right back. Let's go. I'm Vin.
I'm sorry.